The Timeshift.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Timeshift. This week I'm reviewing the latest episode of Doctor Who titled The Reality War, and we kick off this review as we always do with these reviews by talking about the story, writing and tangentially related matters. Now this is my second major attempt at doing this review. This time I'm going to try and do it in a little bit more succinct way. That other version was well over half an hour long, so let's just get straight to it and say that, look, if there was one short sentence that I could use to sum up my feelings as regarding this episode, that sentence would be better luck next time. Now, look, I don't want to sound as though I'm going to go into some massive rant or start ragging on this episode for well over half an hour, but I will just say this is an episode which I really did not like a whole lot. There are some really strong and fun elements within it, but at the end of the day, this is an episode that felt to me that it was very mechanically clunky. The big mystery surrounding our villains felt rather meaningless in the end. I really hate that soundtrack with a passion, and not a lot within the episode really hung together all that well for me. As I say, there are some neat little moments within the episode, but in the grand scheme of things, they feel just like set pieces. They feel like scenes that individually are very strong, but at the end of the day, as I say, they don't hang together well. This feels almost like a greatest hits album. It's a very by the numbers kind of affair. These are all the plug-in elements that you'd expect for a season finale, and also the end of a Doctor's run in Doctor Who. An end that feels rather, I will be honest, rather abrupt, and I don't think I'm going to be considering this one of the greatest regeneration stories ever, I'm going to be honest with you, but that's the lay of the land, as they say. That's where we certainly landed with this one. I want to be positive with this one, because there are some strong moments within it, but as I say, they're just moments, and look, I'm kind of in two minds at the moment whether to just go through all the things I did enjoy and then get into the negatives, but at the same time, it does feel like it would be damning with faint praise to just do that. I will say is that just for the moment, there were moments in the episode that did stick out to me positively. The whole bit where the Doctor shifts into his dress skirt thing, I think that in and of itself is a neat moment, but I think that would have worked far better had that been the moment that he broke his hypnosis mind control thing, as that itself gives us a clear, definitive visual indicator that he's not the person that he was when he was under the illusion that he was John Smith. Okay, that would have been good, but sadly the mind control thing was broken last week, so just a neat visual image in an outfit that at the end of the day wasn't iconic. Like, this is a Doctor that I don't think has an iconic outfit, because just about every single episode they're in something different, which maybe is the reason why I don't feel that strongly towards this Doctor, but that is something that we'll maybe discuss in a future video. The bit where Ruby was confronting Conrad, I thought that was an interesting moment. There was a part of me that rolled my eyes at it because it felt like very much of a sympathy for the devil kind of moment, trying to recontextualise his character, but then I realised that, we didn't really contextualise his character that much or establish much in the way of motivation, so just hinting to that here and to having the moment of him getting something resembling a nice ending in the end of days was okay, neat, okay, fine, like, sure. You can argue whether or not a character that really deserves one, but hey-ho! Probably would have had a lot more meaning had, Poppy really had been gone. And the whole mystery surrounding Poppy and the whole thing of, there had been hints and clues all along as to who she really was. Yeah, that was okay, that was great and good, but it feels like, okay, sure, congratulations, Mr. Russell T. Davies, you're a very skilled person when it comes to sleight of hand writing. It's just a shame that the whole trick didn't really thrill me to quite the same extent of it, because, let's be honest, this is Doctor Who. Like, this kind of stuff, the whole thing of, actually there were hints as to who this character was all along, fine, but let's be honest, we're all here to see the Doctor do sci-fi fun adventure things, and yet again, this is another Russell T Davies season finale where the big sci-fi mystery thing ultimately didn't matter in the end. And I'd be far more forgiving of that fact had it been a case of, no, this episode is actually about this thing. It's about this deeper subtextual thing, this thing about these characters, this thing about this, there's this important message that we want to get across to you, and the sci-fi stuff at the end of the day doesn't matter. It's the whole thing about, George Jaws isn't really about a giant shark, it's actually about da-da-da-da-da-da. You get the idea. There's actually something else going on here, but that's still, you know, in the context of Jaws, it's still a great shark attack movie. This episode, as an episode of Doctor Who, regardless of how it ended with the regeneration stuff, is ultimately an episode that doesn't hang well together because, yet again, this is a season finale with Russell T Davies at the helm, where the big mystery, the big villains in this episode didn't matter a whole lot. The fact that this is an episode that contained two versions of the Rani as well as a Maker didn't matter, as those two versions of the Rani could have been anyone. They could have been two other as yet unseen Time Lords or some other strange Machiavellian entity, and the fact it was Omega didn't matter because it could easily have been Sutekh or some other generic ghosty monster thing. It could have been the devil or the Grand Stunk from the planet Shmar, for all it was worth at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, that stuff didn't matter. And this was all a lot of stuff which, again, individually is neat, individually is cool or cute or emotive, but all these things together, for me, don't really hang well together. They simply do not. Like, this is an episode that is very paint by numbers as far as the final episode of A Doctor's Time, as it is a lot of, here are the rogues gallery, or the heroes gallery I should say, of the different characters the Doctor has met over the course of their adventures, with them all coming back to save the day one last time, or as much as they can do, bearing in mind that one of them's dead and now a star, so you get the idea. So, that, as far as doing that stuff, it was fine. You know, we had the character from the Christmas special who now works at the Time Hotel. Great. It's just a shame that they spent the majority of this episode just standing slightly off camera holding a door for the majority of it. Like, oh hey, we're bringing your character back for Doctor Who. Great, fantastic. Everyone loves that character. What am I doing? You're going to stand and hold a door. Oh, anything else? No, because in the context of the episode, if you close the door, then it breaks everything. Oh, okay. We've also got Rose Noble back. Yeah, remember Rose Noble? Remember when we thought that she was going to become a companion and then didn't? I mean, it genuinely feels as though Russell T Davies forgot about the character for what it is worth. Like, I understand in the context of this episode, given the context of Conrad's world and Conrad's version of the world, that she doesn't exist. Like, I get the subtext as to why she doesn't exist. It's just that also doesn't work because, yeah, I understand why he doesn't think that she exists, but wouldn't that also mean that disabled people don't exist, rather than just being a bunch of down and outs in his society? And also, when you bear that in mind, the whole thing about him saying to Ruby, oh, because Ruby says to him, well, at the least you didn't create a world where everyone's shooting each other and smoking whiskey and smoking cigars. And he goes, yeah, well, the Doctor said about wanting to create a world where everyone was fed and everyone was happy. And okay, great moment, great to see how the Doctor's rubbing off on that character, making them into a better person. It still doesn't really help with the fact that, you know, he doesn't like people like Rose Noble and doesn't like disabled people, but don't worry about that, everyone. Like, in my original version of this review, I concluded that Russell T Davies' season finales are much like classic Doctor Who itself. Like, if you focus too much on the mechanics of it, not like the story mechanics, but the mechanics of the special effects, you start to see the problems. Like, if you're really focusing on the special effects of classic Doctor Who, you can see the wires on the spaceships, and you can see, actually, no, that's the packaging from a VCR player, or, oh, you can see the seams in the mask, you, like, see the hole in the lizard man's costume, and you can see the guy's Adam's apple wobbling up and down, and they just kind of painted it green and hope no one would notice. Like, you don't focus on that because you're so taken in by the strength of the story itself, but regrettably for me, there's not a whole lot here that really makes for a strong story. I suppose that part of it is knackered up by the fact that this is an episode that... Look, this is an episode that broadcasts on BBC One rather than being released on the iPlayer ahead of time, which is something that I'm in and of myself fine with, but the continuity announcer gave away the fact that this was a time loop thing, and when he did that, I just think... Oh, so one of the big two... Like, had I not known that, the big reveal that there was a time loop thing going on, I would have found that interesting. It's just the same that the continuity announcer fucking bollocked that up for me. I also didn't like the whole Deus Ex Machina thing of the Time Hotel lady saving the Doctor. Like, again, nice to see them back. It's just the same that it feels like the only reason they're back is because A, this is Ncuti Gatwa's leaving do, and B, because, oh crap, how does the Doctor get out of this one? Because even beyond that, like I say, a lot of this kind of doesn't matter at the end of the day. The whole thing about this episode ending with this reality warping, like everything collapsing on itself and folding on itself and changing, and oh, this brand new era's going to come through and Omega's going to appear and it's going to cause all kinds of a rumpus. At the end of the day, it really didn't matter. All that great visual imagery, everything folding on itself like some out of Inception. Yeah, it really didn't matter at the end of the day, did it? Like, none of it did. As I say, you could replace the villains with just about anyone else. It would ultimately have the same thing. And this is yet another season finale in this Russell T Davies Mark II era, where our big bad ultimately is just this big bad monster thing. It's just that last year it was this evil space doggo, and now this week it's evil Time Lord Skeletor. Yeah, Doctor, you're bored. I'll get you this time. Yeah, I mean, oh god, really? Look, I don't want to get into how I would have done it territory, but at the very least, having just a guy in a strange hood with a strange mask on standing there, I think that would have been a lot creepier than the big creepy rotting skeleton monster thing. Like, I think that oddly would have been more effective. Like, the thing that on paper, that outside of the head of the executives is the scary thing, would have been more scary. Like, if Omega just looked like a guy in a mask, I think that would have been spookier than this big fetus skeleton monster thing, whose grand contribution to this episode is eating one of the Ranis. Like, and outside of that, like, they didn't do a whole lot. Like, they just stood in a thing poking out of it like a bogling, and that was it. The Doctor zapped them away with the Omegatron, or what the fuck it's supposed to be. As you had that really, oh god, the soundtrack in this episode. Oh no, no, no. I hate Murray Gold soundtracks. I hate them with a passion. This episode really did just nail down the fact I hate Murray Gold soundtracks more than ever before. Because now, in that moment where he's zapping the skeleton monster thing, it has the soundtrack that sounds like it's the theme tune to a daytime quiz show, albeit with the Welsh choir in the background going, ho, 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 stuff. And then we had that exact same soundtrack when the Doctor's regenerating. You know what, I've ragged on the series before about the whole Welsh choir thing of the ooh, 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 this is sad, ooh, as we've had in the past. You know, I'd have taken that over what we got instead, because at this moment, when the Doctor's regenerating, it feels as though we're about to go, ha-ha, everyone, welcome back. Now it's time for the double money round. Doctor Who turning into a gaming show. God. Such a brilliant moment in an episode. Well, like I said, there are some good moments in this episode. Like the whole bit where the Doctor and Belinda are passing the coat between each other, and it's slowly shrinking down and getting smaller and smaller until it's just a handkerchief. And then the reveal that Poppy isn't there. That was such a beautiful moment. And the whole thing about, yeah, the Doctor knows that Poppy isn't there, and he's not playing onto it because he doesn't want to freak out Belinda. Oh my god, that was a fantastic bit. And had they kept that going, oh bloody hell, that would have been a bittersweet way to end the episode, but god, that would have been great. And then maybe for the next season you set up with them trying to find Poppy, but no, we couldn't do that because we needed to bring back Poppy. And the whole thing about the season, oh, Poppy was actually here all along, and there've been teases of them in prior episodes. Okay, sure, good, okay. Fantastic, fine sleight of hand stuff, but at the end of the day, all the circumstances around the Doctor ultimately regenerating feel like a great big, okay, but why? Like, I don't want to get into the whole meta thing about why Ncuti Gatwa was leaving it, but it kind of felt as though he left ultimately rather unceremoniously, because this is his big regeneration episode, and it doesn't feel as though he as an actor had much of a chance to shine. I'll talk about that in greater detail later on, but even with that, before he starts to regenerate, we get the cameo appearance of Jodie Whittaker's version of the Doctor. And I will just say is that in that brief, minute and a half that we had her on screen, she felt more like the Doctor than she did for most of her time as the Doctor previously. Like, it felt as though the writing with her was really spot on. And it's a kind of level of writing that I wish that we had with this version of the Doctor. And ultimately, we didn't get that. There were no major moments. It felt as though Gatwa was getting... I'm talking about performances, but we won't talk about that just yet. And I will just say, that the new regeneration effect with it being like lightning striking out. Great, I love that. That's a great twist on it, and how everything just collapsed, and it felt as though the entire world was falling apart as he was doing that. Brilliant, great visual effects, and at the end of the day, it really didn't matter. Like, this is well, it does matter because there's someone occupying the space of the Doctor. The fact that the credits don't say that it's introducing Billie Piper as the Doctor, and the only two people listed as the Doctor being Whittaker and Gatwa, hints to me that they're not that, and they're actually just filling the space into whomever it really is, but... yeah... I'm going to be honest with you, for those who don't know, I'm not a big fan of Billie Piper, so I really hope they're not the Doctor. But I suppose we'll find out who the Doctor really is in a couple of weeks' time, when either it is released as a leak or in a press release, or a week or so before the Christmas special or whatever the fuck's going on with it. Like, a lot of this, it feels like... The big problem I had with the episode towards the end of it is it felt like there were like 4 different climaxes. Like, you have the big thing of the Doctor defeating Omega, that's climax number 1. Then you have the next climax of them undoing everything and turning everything back to normal. Then you had the climax of the Doctor regenerating, and then undoing that so he can have his farewell speech to Belinda. And then you have the other climax when eventually he does, well, these aren't climaxes, these like big ending scenes, but you get the idea. It feels as though this episode ended on 4 different occasions. Like, there comes a point in the episode where you sat there thinking to yourself, is the episode over here? And then all of a sudden, 4 endings come along at once. Like, this episode, I want to like more of this episode than I did, and even just beyond just the mechanical stuff, the whole thing about, oh, Time Lords are sterile, they're a sterile race, and I'm thinking, okay... So I guess that we're doubling down on the fan theory that the Doctor's granddaughter isn't actually their granddaughter, is an adoptive thing. Okay. So why is it that a few seasons ago we had this shot of the Master as a child? Like, I'm just going to leave that one hanging for a little bit, because I'm sure there's someone out there who can explain this better to me. But if the Time Lords don't have children, how can there be child Time Lords? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Maybe this... you know what? I'm not going to speculate on it too much, because I'm... Oh, for God's sake. Goodness sake. That's the thing I think a lot of people are really going to pick up upon and scream and shout about as we go forward. Big retcon time. The Doctor's granddaughter isn't the Doctor's granddaughter, and we don't even have the luxury of seeing them on screen. Or even having them mentioned, really. We had more mentions of Ernest Borgnine in this episode than we did about Susan Foreman. God almighty. I don't want to hate on this episode. I don't want the grand regeneration episode of a Doctor to feel just like such a damp squib, but at the end of the day, it just kind of feels like that. Maybe it's because this episode wasn't originally going to be a regeneration episode and they had to change things in the end. Like, this was just going to be a standard season finale, and then, oh crap, we need to alter a few things here and there to make it so. But for me, a lot of the episode can just be boiled down to, okay, but why? Or ultimately, who cares? And I don't want that to be the case, because there's a lot of neat things in the episode, but it feels like a lot of case of paint by numbers, or just following a recipe. These are all the things that you need in the season finale. These are all the things that you need in an episode where the Doctor is leaving, and this was the end result of it. And at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of it honestly works. Like, this is an episode where the Doctor's main companion for this season spends most of it in a box. Like, she's not the one that confronts Conrad. I mean, she wouldn't, because they've not met before, but she doesn't contribute a whole lot of much to this episode, which is a shame, because this is probably going to be the last time we see that character for a very, very long time, it seems, or at least until the Russell T Davies Mark II era ends again. But let's just go into the performances and just say that, look, I'm not going to lean onto this too far, but look, a lot of this episode was just a lot of characters standing around and talking at each other, whilst Murray Gold tried to figure out what kind of soundtrack would ruin this particular scene, with it all feeling overplayed and overdone for scenes that are just exposition heavy. In fairness to him, he might have been trying his best to make those scenes interesting, but a lot of it, like I say, is a lot of characters standing around and talking to each other while they figure stuff out. I'm no fan of the whole thing of the Russell T. Davies, everyone running and pointing at things while the dun 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 music playing in the background, but at least that was something, and it felt as though our characters were contributing to it. Again, it's a lot of characters standing around and talking for the most part, and not a lot of them really acting. It feels as though, in fairness, that Molly Gibson playing Ruby Sunday was the standout best actor in this episode. Like, it makes me wish she had been the companion for this season, because her performance in this episode, pound for pound, was the best thing in it, which on the one hand, great for her, but on the other hand, this is the episode where we're supposed to say, thank you, Mr. Gatwa, goodbye, thanks for all the fish, and at the end of the day, he didn't contribute much to it, not because of a failing on his part, but because the episode itself didn't really give him many opportunities with which to do so. I mean, I wish it wasn't the case, because he can be good in the role, it's just I don't think he's ever been given that opportunity. And it's a kind of similar kind of feeling I had with Jodie Whittaker when she was the Doctor, but at least you had hints as to what her Doctor could and should have been. With this particular incarnation, I don't think I've ever really got that feeling for them. I don't think I've ever really got a feeling as to who they're supposed to be deep down, apart from being a Doctor he's just like all the other modern Doctors, where he's a bit kind of fun and charismatic and he wants to save the day, and that's just about it. He can be compassionate, but we didn't ever really, well, apart from the the Interstellar Stone contest, we didn't really see much of a darkness to him, and even then that felt like something that ultimately was kind of very much out of kilter with the rest of the episode. Like, it doesn't feel as though I got much of a grasp of their character in this episode alone, let alone their past 2 or 3 years of them being in this role, which is a shame. And maybe the fact they didn't have a consistent and coherent look might have been a contributing factor to that. Like, he had a different costume every episode, and maybe that contributed to it. Like, you know that scene where he goes into the kilt dress thing? Yeah, had that been his outfit for his entire run in this series, it would have felt like, yeah, this is a cool, super cool, badass moment. It's the Doctor, and he's back to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and he's all out of gum. But no, it's just yet another different outfit that he wears. It's not the first outfit he wore. If it had been the first outfit he wore as the Doctor, you know, in his episode at Ruby Road, the church at Ruby Road, that would have been great. That would have been fantastic. But it wasn't. It was just yet another new outfit. And then you have Jodie Whittaker coming in, and like I say, I think she did fantastic with the time that she had there, even though I don't think she really needed to be there, like, at all. Like, it's nice that we got to do something with her. It's fantastic to see her back. But at the end of the day, it does feel like a case of, okay, but why though? You could replace that with anybody else, and that scene would ultimately have the same feeling to it. It could have been done with Matt Smith, or Peter Capaldi, or, well, we're not going to bring back Christopher Eccleston, but you could have brought back almost any past Doctor, and it would have ultimately had the same feel of it. And the rest of the cast ultimately did what was required of them, but not enough to really do much of anything, which is a shame. Because I think this is a good cast, but they don't get a whole lot of time to really do much of anything, which is a shame. Anyway, let's get to the overview. And we have a review that is 10 minutes shorter than the original version. And just say, I don't want to say it, but I've got to say it, because this is my review. I didn't like this episode. I thought it was intensely mid, and at the end of the day, despite the fact that this is a regeneration story, despite the fact this is the last time we'll see Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, unless there's some kind of big bait and switch thing going on, at the end of the day, it just kind of feels like one great big shoulder shrug from me. This episode just feels like such a mess, with so many different things going on at once, competing for time with one another, with the big mystery surrounding Omega and the two Ranis not mattering in the end, and the whole thing of, oh, Time Lords don't have children now throws a massive spanner in the continuity of a lot of things, really, in a way that I don't think people are really appreciating right now, which is a shame. And of course we have the cameo appearance, second time, of the Rogue. Okay. Like, I think this is something, I don't remember if I mentioned this in this review, but has this been the episode like 2 or 3 seasons in? Well, she's 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, had this come at like season 3 or season 4 of Gatwa's time as the Doctor, it probably would have had a lot more weight to it, because we'd have a lot more time to be with these characters, and like the Rogue as a character, we probably would have had more time with. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of, okay, who cares? Oh, and you'll also notice in this episode, you know how in the previous, like, end of season 2-parter, we had the boy genius character? Where was he during all of this? Like when you had the bit where everyone's implants were kicking off and it was everyone from unit waking up. We didn't see him. I suppose he was exactly 11 miles out from unit when they needed the 10-mile radius around it. Oh, God. I wanted to like this episode. I did. But I suppose the reason why I feel so numb to it is the fact at this point I'm just very used to how his episodes go, his season finales go. So at the end of the day, I was mentally prepared for it. Well, that's them done, however, let's get into Comment Corner. It's time for Comment Corner. I'll keep this quick because I've been doing this for far too long tonight. We got Big X1 who says, and this is referring to last week's episode, this episode for me was okay. I agree that I didn't like how it... Actually, I agree that I don't like how they have been doing the Rani Flood thing. I didn't like the Chibnall way of doing things, but at least with the Timeless Child, it ran in the background all the time. Here, Rani Flood just appears and does nothing with Omega, really, which is ultimately what they do this week as well. Which is a shame because it really does feel like a case of who can we get? Like I mentioned in my comments to them, it feels like who can we get? Who haven't we brought back yet? We haven't brought back Omega and we haven't brought back the Rani. I suppose at some point in not too distant future we're going to bring back the Valiard as well, and it's just as much of an anticlimax. The next one is with Elfine42. I apologise if I got the name wrong. They said, I'll be honest, this took what was a strong build-up for the series and turned it into a complete and total mess. I don't understand what the direction was here. You have like 20 different ideas that don't work together, and outside of Conrad existing, there's no justification as to why they link back to the rest of the series. Thank you for your comment, and I have to say is that like 90% of your comment could easily refer to this week's episode. It really was a mess for me, with build-up that didn't really feel as though it went anywhere, and at the end of the day, I don't know what the direction was. Maybe the episode wasn't originally supposed to be a leaving episode, but then it was retrofitted into being one. I don't know. I just feel as though this episode just is a big shoulder shrug to me. I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. This was very much an episode. It was the Doctor Whoiest, Russell T Daviest, season finaleist episode that there has ever season finaleist did, with Russell T Davies at the helm of it. Which is a shame. Let me know what you thought about this particular episode in the comment section down below, and let me know what you thought about this season as a whole. Whether you loved it, hated it, or indifferent to it, let me know and you read out in a future video. Thank you all for listening, thank you all for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye!
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!